Perfect. So a big official welcome to everyone. Thank you for joining us. This is our first fire session before season 2 of the Design Leadership Program. We are very excited to have you all here and to start our debate and our learnings from last season. So together here with me, I have Hoda Mustafa, Director Center for Learning and Teaching at the American University in Cairo. Hi, Hoda. Welcome. I'm going to be giving you the word very soon. I also have here with me Dan Levy, founder and principal at More Space for Light. And hello, everyone. I am Juliana Prosepio, ECHO's co-founder and chief design officer. So again, welcome. If you just arrived now, please let us know where you're joining from in the chat and what kind of designer are you. We are very curious to see where everyone is joining us from. So for those who don't know us, we are ECHO's global independent innovation lab driven by design. And basically at ECHO's, we have 3 business units. We have ECHO's School of Design Thinking, ECHO's Innovation Projects, and ECHO's Ventures. At the innovation projects, we help business create value and innovate for good. We work with different organizations from Google to the New South Wales government, to banks and different organizations, helping them become more innovative, use design to accelerate products and services and change their culture. At the School of Design Thinking, where we have the Design Leadership Program, we help people and organizations master the innovation mindset, skills, and tools. And we are spread in different locations. Our team is in APAC, also in Latin America, also in Europe, and we have people also in the US now. So it's a global team, spread in different locations. And this is a little bit of our tracking record. We have become 10 years old this year in 2021. And since 2011, we have already trained more than 40,000 people. And we have already developed more than 150 projects. We are also very proud to be part of the Global Design Thinking Alliance. It is an amazing network to be part of. We learn a lot with all of these universities around the world. And we as ECHO's, we are the only one who is not an university. We are an independent innovation lab, and we work together with them to develop design thinking and the design thinking research. So today we're going to be talking about design leadership. This year, we did the first season of the design leadership. It was an amazing journey, 12 weeks, learning from top global leaders. And we are launching now the season 2 that is going to be starting next year in March 14th. So the program, if you don't know, it's a program that is going to be helping you become a better leader. You're going to be learning about how you can create better design teams, how you can articulate the value of design, how you can develop better products and services. And so the journey, if you would like to know more, I can always answer your questions, or Luna Pigato is our program advisor. I'm going to be sending I'm going to be sending the email of her soon, and she can discuss with you if this is a program for you or not. But basically, the Design Leadership Program is our newest program. At ECHO's, we have different programs: design thinking, service design, business design, but design leadership is a new one, and it's the only global program that we offer. So we are now launching season 2, and it's a 12-week journey. In this 12-week journey, you'll be learning about, obviously, what is design leadership and what are the minimum viable competencies for being a design leader. Then you're going to be learning about articulating the value of design. You're going to be learning about service design being the new management. You're going to be creating high-value products. You're going to be learning about facilitation as a leadership skill. You're also going to be learning about shaping diverse teams and cultures. You're going to be learning about design ethics and impact. And then from week 9, you're going to be focusing more on teams and shaping organizations and design ops, as well as creating a future vision, because every leader needs to learn and needs to be a great future designer. And then week 11, we will be discussing new technology and how to push boundaries. And then on week 12, it's about paths for design leaders. So basically, our learning experience in this course is based on 4 key pillars for the program. As a design leader, you're going to be learning about your role as a design leader and how do you know more about yourself. So how do you discover your purpose? How do you know more about yourself? How do you understand your design leadership strengths and flaws? So you can build your next design, your next step in design leadership. Then you're also going to be learning about how do you as a design leader manage others and relate to others. So how do you give feedback, specific feedback for designers and for innovation teams? How do you hire and manage and grow teams? How do you create a design culture? How do you shape and manage design teams? You're also going to be learning about how do you lead products and services, and how do you get into excellence, get into the last mile of design. And lastly, we'll be learning a lot about how do you as a design leader impact the system. So how do you think about design ethics, systemic design, design org, and design ops, and how do you articulate the value of design? So it is an intense 12 weeks journey where you're going to be learning from 12 global masterclasses. These were the 12 global masterclasses of this year, season 1. For season 2, we're preparing amazing other 12 global masterclasses. We already have these 3 people confirmed: Birgit Mager, Peter, and Stephen Gates. And we are confirming the other 9, 12 global masterclasses. They are going to be amazing. I already have some names that we are signing up the new agreement, but I cannot say, unfortunately, that they are going to be really, really amazing. And on top of that, you also have local workshops, right? So in the local work, so the global masterclass, you're going to be networking with global leaders, of course. You're going to be having this masterclass with these top design leaders, and you're going to be getting to know people from everywhere around the globe. And it's a bigger, let's say, cohort. But we also have the local workshops weekly. So every Monday you have the masterclass, and every Wednesday you have the local workshop, which is a smaller group only for your region. You can get more intimate and discuss things that are more relevant to your context. So this is basically, the course will be starting March 14th and goes up until June 11th. And today I have here together with me 2 people who participated this year, actually, on season 1. They were both ambassadors, and Dan was also a workshop leader. And we're going to be discussing here with them our biggest learnings from season 1. We surely learned a lot. And there were a lot of nuggets of insights throughout the course. So I would like to first invite you, Hoda and Dan, to introduce yourselves, and then we'll start the discussion and talk about the learnings of the program. You can go, Dan.
I was going to let Hoda go first. Okay, my name's Dan Levy. I run a company called More Space for Light. We specialize in workshop design, facilitation, and training programs, all based around our More Space method program. And yeah, we're based in Australia as well. That's my sweet intro, Juliana.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Hoda, let us know a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, I'm Hoda Mustafa, and I direct a Center for Learning and Teaching at the American University in Cairo, Egypt, which focuses on educational development, teaching innovation, which includes design thinking and innovation frameworks for teaching excellence and teaching innovation, but also digital education. And I'm very interested in design thinking, innovation frameworks, and design leadership. And that's what brought me here. I'm also a participant as well. So ambassador and participant.
You're right.
Not
only an ambassador,
a unique perspective.
So much better than my intro. So much better. Hoda, can I borrow your intro and just put mine out?
Anytime.
Look, I think that I'm going to just jump in and start asking you questions. So the first one, what were your biggest learnings in the program? Maybe I'll start with Hoda.
All right, sure. I mean, there's so many, but I'll start with, something that struck me. Like I said, I was an ambassador for the region, but also a participant, because design leadership, as like the common definition in other areas and other regions beyond MENA and Egypt is very different than when you say design in Egypt. The first thing that comes to mind is a little different than what other regions, and we talked about that a lot, Juliana and I and Ricardo at ECHOS. So coming into the program, I had a lot of expectations, and the program actually surpassed my expectations. So this was something that really struck me. Another thing is, coming from a higher education background, there weren't a lot of people in higher education. A lot of people came from more traditional design backgrounds, whether it's experience design, service design, graphic design, design thinking. And I didn't feel out of place. I always learned something that I could reimagine and transform into my practical takeaways. So every single, at masterclass or workshop, I had something that I could immediately take into practice, whether it was how to reapply feedback or how, I can turn this into a workshop. I can turn this into a team building activity. I can take this into a strategic planning activity. I can transform, this idea into something I can do with my team. So as a learning journey, the takeaways, my main takeaway was there are learning moments in each and every masterclass and each and every workshop. And the design itself of the entire program is so well articulated and visual that you can actually visualize your learning as you go through it. That's kind of my experience, that I could actually feel myself gaining new learnings as I moved through the program. And it was very well articulated. I felt the learning. It was a physical and actual mental experience that I hadn't had in any other online course or MOOC or even traditional kind of college-like or higher, graduate course I'd had before. It was completely different. So I really enjoyed that.
Okay, over to me. I'm going to just go off of what Hoda was saying in regards to the practicality of the tools that were shared by each of the different speakers. And also something else I want to touch on is the community aspect of it. And something I observed, because I was kind of shadowing in the background, Juliana, as people were going, was how the community started to support each other and ask questions that were adjacent to some of the learnings that were happening throughout the program, which I found really interesting. And I'm still part of it. So the stuff that I can't read the Spanish, but I can read the English. So I can see some of the conversations that are still happening and you're still supporting the students. So it's really nice that there's that community aspect of it. But the other thing, which I thought was very interesting, was there was a shared perspective from each of the speakers. And that was really around what is the value of design and what is the value of not just for yourself, but within the organization. And it was also almost building up. It was demonstrating the credibility of design, not just as a practice, as a resource, but as a craft and as an actual tool for business outcomes. And I think that came back to some of the methods. People like Matt Johnson, for example, outlined some really practical methods in regards to mobilizing a team, or Stephen Gates, who was speaking all about making everything very relatable. These different speakers broke everything down at different levels, but they were all very much saying the same thing from different angles. And I think from that kind of emphasized the continuity of each of the speakers, which I don't think was done. It was kind of done by design, but just in regards of that kind of shared understanding, even though people were coming from different perspectives, it allowed that natural organic flow of the overall program.
That's really nice. Thank you, Hoda and Dan. Look, I think the second question is a follow-up, and I wanted to hear from you. What were the highlights for you of season one? Is there anything that was kept in your mind? I have my moments that I really liked. There were some moments that were absolutely unbelievable, kind of hearing the stories of such great leaders and how they see design and how they are implementing design in big organizations, inside governments, in startups, or how they are growing teams, how they are making the teams become even more effective. How are they maybe overcoming skepticism in some organizations? How are we using design as a management tool, or even in the moments where one of the master classes said one thing and the other master class said the absolutely opposite. Listening to different perspectives of how to lead design is really, really important. And I love that this was one of the things that really inspired me. For example, I remember that in one of the sessions, Stephen Gates was saying, look, sometimes you shouldn't even use the word design because it sometimes might scare people out. So maybe avoid the term, maybe use a different terminology, because what you want to do is just get things done or something like that. And I remember that then Birgit Mager said, look, I absolutely disagree with that. We should give a name. That's what we do. So there was, peaks and moments, and also the moment where we were learning from Misha Carl talking about how she was learning and teaching and kind of implementing a systemic approach of design inside the Australian government, the ATO. That was amazing as well. There were so many highlights. I would love to hear from you. What were yours?
We're letting you lead because we're trying, just for everyone's benefit, we had an agreement before we came online that we're trying not to talk over each other. So we're busting to talk, but we're just letting Juliana steer us. But I've come off of mute, and I was going to, Hoda, am I cool? Just to kind of
say, go ahead, you start.
Yeah, you start, and then maybe you just respond that way we can kind of keep the flow. I found it interesting where the tension between leader and manager, and people talk about the construct of leader because they want to be a thought leader, they want people to look up at them. And then there was a stat from Birgit Mager that says 3.4% of the, I think it's like 380 design tools that she did an audit of, only 3.4% of them are focused on implementation. And there's a couple of ways you can look at that. You can look at that design in the terms of actually more of the business side of it, because there's a lot of strategy and a lot of alignment. And there's also the other side of it, which might be the external perspective, where what is the value of design in regards to getting stuff done from people that aren't so au fait with it. And that was something that has held on to me, especially within our business. You want to be a good leader, but you've also got to be a good manager. And you, as a leader, you kind of hold those two different roles as almost in tension, because you need to get things done, but you also got to get people on the bus as well. So it's like being able to switch, or being able to have that support team around you.
I love that, because I don't know who said it, but there was a big discussion about being a design leader versus being a design manager. What are the differences? Are they the same thing or not? And etc. And then at some point there were the discussion about being a leader is more valuable, because then you are creating thought leadership, you are leading, you are inspiring, and things like that. But then there was the other end that I thought it was very, very important, that you cannot be a leader without first being a manager. Right. So you need to learn how to manage, how you're going to be managing not only the deliveries, but also a team or a project or something like that before you actually become a great leader. So maybe it's a path, right? It's a journey, and not necessarily one is being better than the other. And most leaders, they need to manage really well. So it is maybe part of being a leader, maybe just in some organizations or in some contexts, that we can be leaders without managing. I would love to be able to do that, but usually I have to manage a lot, right? And it's part of the deal in most of the cases. Hoda, you are agreeing. I would love to hear your thoughts as well.
I'm just thinking right now of this idea of the many hats that we wear, and this tension. And I also have a piece of advice for participants is, of course, many of us are note takers, but just to capture these things. And in Birgit's talk about this tension is that, management tends to be hierarchical, but leadership is not. But going back to this point of transformation, I think the many hats we wear in this, if we look at design leadership as a journey, I think Dan, in your workshop, I think it was a workshop, not a masterclass, if I'm not mistaken, you talked about like these roles of, some of them are leadership roles and some of them are managerial in a sense. So the coach, the champion, the architect, and what was the fourth one? Dan, right?
The diplomat.
Coach,
The diplomat.
the diplomat.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's Peter
right?
Merholt's 4 archetypes of design leadership.
Yeah. So that stuck with me, and I actually have those 4 sticky notes on our team board. And I asked people to kind of almost like those 6 thinking hats. These are like 4. I don't know what to call them yet, but sometimes we have to be the coach, and sometimes we have to be the architect, sometimes the champion, sometimes the diplomat. And then there are some other roles as well. So sometimes you have to be maybe the bystander, or sometimes you have to be the observer, or sometimes you have to be. So what are the roles that we take in our leadership journey? And there are tensions. And then there was also something that came up, I think, frequently, maybe more in the workshops and in the breakout rooms. And this was really exciting because I ended up in breakout rooms sometimes with the same people, but often with different people. And this tension around design leadership being very empathetic, and you have to be building empathy and building trust and building human connections. And how can you do that when sometimes you have to lead and make critical decisions? And this tension in the workplace, that leaders are seen as being very different. And can you do both? And the answer for us as design leaders, or aspiring, I won't say aspiring, constantly aspiring to be design leaders, is that yes, empathy is a core pillar of design leadership. And how can we do that successfully? How can we be people-centered? How can we be life-centered? How can we build these types of systems? And that also, I think, was a highlight of the conversations we had and the struggles that many people had within their workplaces to build that. And something that I took away as my final highlight, if I have time, is something from Birgit's talk, was something that we immediately implemented in our work policy. So we have a back to work. Everyone back in your desks, everyone's back to work. But that doesn't work for everybody. So we started to implement a flexible dynamic work policy that's based on trust. And she gave me that push to be able to trust people, because I saw the value in that. It gave me that that belief that I could trust people. It's that extra little push when I saw someone that had some really great things to say, doing it and advocating and championing that trust. It helped me trust my team. So 22 people that I lead, it's not a huge team, but to advocate for that trust and to, it's not social, it's individual trust of each and every one of the people that I lead. So it was really, really helpful to have that experience at that time.
I was just going to say that the empathy part is something as a designer, it's like from day one. I mean, like, from your design thinking practice, and Juliana, I know you'd realize you'd be totally switched onto that as well. The only way you can design is by having empathy, because it's art is for yourself and the design's for other people. It's commercial, isn't it? It's the commercial application. So you need the empathy, otherwise you can't convey the message, because design's about sales, both in the organization, demonstrating the value, and also within the actual tangible outcomes of what you present to your audience.
That is really nice, what you just highlighted. And I was just thinking here and reflecting upon that's such an unfair question, because there are so many moments that they're popping up in my mind. So I was just remembering as well, for example, one of these sessions that really, the masterclass that really struck with me as well, was the one from Michael Tam, talking about how to push the boundaries. And one of the things that I think is very interesting, he works for IBM, and they implemented the enterprise design thinking as a common language. We talked a lot about creating this common language as design leaders, right? Sometimes it's a common language of how you're going to be navigating using design as a language rather than just a output or application or approach. I thought it was very interesting to understand and to kind of create, be able to articulate this language in an organization, in a conversation, something like that. But then the other bit is like how they are pushing the bounds in terms of how they are using design as an approach to work to designing better, let's say, infrastructures or software or kind of technology using AI, using virtual reality, and how they have to push the boundaries. Because when you get into this high level of development or of design that you're going to be impacting so many lives, the moment that you think about these things and that you start to impact so many lives are just it's amazing. And it's amazing for good, and it can be overwhelming for bad, because when you are designing things in scale and for technologies such as machine learning and things like that, your responsibility or the team's responsibility is so much greater, and you're going to have to push the boundaries so many levels, and you need to know that you're doing the right thing, right? Because this is going to be standing there for so many years to come. So you are designing the future. And there was the one from Phil Balagtas talking about the future. That was just like amazing. How do you visualize? How do you create paths for the future? And these also being a big responsibility for design leaders, right? You're constantly creating the future as well.
So interesting you say that. I mean, you only have to look at Facebook, started by a geek in his dorm, and all of a sudden it's like this monolith, isn't it? Like he would never have seen it, however 20, 30 years ago when Facebook was launched, where it would get to right now. So that's so true. And we know some people that are involved with the metaverse, and they're big speakers in that world. And they talk about ethics. It's all about ethics. Same in AI. We spoke to some chap, Josh Lovejoy, speaking about ethics in AI and design. And this whole conversation around ethics is something hasn't really, because design traditionally has been so flat and it's just been almost like broadcast. But now we're in this interactive world, and everything's around how we engage, how we connect with customers, with our audience, with our members. That, you know, there's this whole conversation about what's right, what's wrong, what are we learning from, what are we tracking, what are we presenting, and all of these sort of things need to be part of that conversation, because they're going to be the things that people respond to and connect, and how they connect with each other and form their tribes.
Yeah. Look, I think I'm just going to be asking another question, but I just wanted to invite the participants here to bring questions to the chat. And if you have any question, please bring, and it could be a topic that you want for us to discuss a little bit with Dan and Hoda. Please do so. I think the other question is, was there anything that you learned that you would never expect to learn? I think we already talked a little bit about that, but maybe there is something else that you learned you didn't expect from this program.
I can go. So I've been a lot of what I do, or I've been doing for the last 10 years, is giving feedback. So, I give feedback about teaching, I give feedback, formative feedback, how you can improve. I do a lot of, feedback on user research. I do a lot of feedback. And I didn't expect that I would learn so much from Erin's masterclass on feedback. It was just, phenomenal, because it was just so punchy and to the point about how to construct this dynamic between positive and negative feedback. So I, read a lot about, sandwiching positive and negative feedback in a very simplistic way, but the way they presented it was just so phenomenal. It was really, that was something that I never expected. I would learn so much more about something I thought I knew a lot about. So that was really good.
For me, it's Phil and futuring. Juliana, when we first met, our conversation was around futuring, and then I met Phil, but you basically turned my head when we first started speaking, and then Phil just blew it out of the water. That's his world, and he's like, we've got a personal connection to Phil as well, and every time he speaks, he's just, both as a facilitator and in regards to the discipline of futuring, the movement that he's building in his practice is just incredible.
That's amazing. And I really like the saying that as designers, we are constantly designing the future, even if you're designing the future for tomorrow, sometimes for the next 5 to 10 years. But I think this is, and he's bringing a lot of, how do you do that? By bringing with signals, how do you analyze trends, how do you do speculative design? That was an amazing session indeed. And then I think I'll have just like 2 more questions. I'll ask one, you can pick, Dan and Hoda. One is, why would anyone take the journey of the design leadership, take the journey of design leadership next year? Why would you say that is recommendable? And the other one, that's for someone else. You can choose which question you want to answer first. Why design leadership can be transformational, and why is it different from more traditional ways of leadership? So Dan and Hoda, you can pick what you want to answer. Just let us know between the 2.
You pick, Dan.
I was going to say the same thing for you, because I'll be honest with you, I was confused in terms of traditional ways of leadership, because I just see leadership itself as a traditional pathway, and then your application or your perspective of it in regards to design. I got stuck there, but I do think, responding to that question, I do think the takeaway for me, sorry, Juliana, the takeaway for me, this was the question I did want to answer. The takeaway for me was the fact that there is design leadership, and at a broader perspective, the speakers that shared their journeys and the application of their practice of design demonstrated that design leadership has so many different facets to it, and there's so many different applications of design that you can come into it. So some people that might be in advertising or marketing might not really understand the tech world, and then the tech world might not understand another facet of it, and then the business design. What, for me anyway, is that it reinforces both the core capability and competencies within leadership, and also the different applications of design and how accessible it is for whichever stage you are, to be able to shift across and broaden your skill set. So I think leadership as a core capability, and plugging it in and connecting it to design, because often people don't actually consider that, especially when they don't see design leaders in their organization. They see that as the ceiling. So coming back to what you were saying about Phil, in regards to designing the future, a lot of the people within, their sphere of influence or their teams take it for granted that they are design leaders. At whatever level they are, they have some sort of say at the table, and it's really important for them to recognize the impact and the value of design within the organization, and being able to connect that with leadership. I hope that answers. I've kind of talked myself back round.
I think it's an open question, so I think it's a great reflection. Hoda, do you want to keep discussing this one, or you want to answer the other question?
Yeah, I can answer the other question, because I have that kind of. I like how you frame the question as a journey, because it is a journey. Transformational is such a loaded word, and I tend not to use it very frequently, because it means a lot. When you transform something, it's taking it from one place and space to another place and space, which is a big word. But I did feel that a lot of what I thought I knew changed. And I was looking forward to the learning experience. And this is, I'm a nerd I've been learning since I was, 4 years old or something. So I consider myself to be a lifelong learner, but it's very appropriate for busy people. This is what I felt, that as a learning designer, and I think I've shared this with Juliana, I was impressed by the way it's designed to fit in with, it's an easy lift, if that's an appropriate way to describe a learning experience. It's an enjoyable experience. You look forward to it, or I looked forward to it. And what you take away, and I'll go back to my first point, I was able to take away at least one or more things from every single masterclass and workshop that I attended and turn it into something tangible in my work. And this is probably the most important thing. And this is where the value for me lied. And this is why, that's why I would take any kind of learning experiences, the tangible. And it is tangible. For me, it was a very tangible experience.
Thank you for that. That's you are so humble, Hoda, because you have so much knowledge and you say that you learned a lot. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for that. Look, I think thank you, Dan, as well, for discussing like the differences a little bit of design leadership and traditional leadership. This is a big one. We could do a PhD on it, maybe. It's a big question. And this is what we were discussing as well. We are trying to shape what design leadership means in this program and helping people to become better design leaders. As we know, we are going through a crazy moment in organizations and in the market. Design is growing so much. There is a big fight for talent, and there are a lot of people hiring design leaders, and there is not enough prepared design leaders out there. That's why we're also helping to shape this next, let's say, wave of design leaders. We hope we definitely need it, and with a lot of responsibility on it, and having great designs will be very important for our present and for our future for sure. Look, I'm going to be inviting a little bit the audience here, and it's a micro participation that you need to do there. Don't be scared. The only thing that I need for you to do is to vote what you want for us to discuss in this last 5 minutes. Okay, so please put in the chat number 1, 2, or 3 what kind of topic you want for us to discuss now. And if you have any other questions, you can also put it in the chat. So would you prefer, if you prefer for us to discuss what are design leaders' main responsibilities, please put on the chat number 1. If you want for us to discuss, are design managers and design leaders the same thing? You can put number 2. We already discussed this a little bit, but we can go back. Or if you want for us to discuss, what is the future of design? Please put number 3. I'll give you like 1 or 2 minutes for that, and then we can start discussing. We already have 3 votes for 2.
Juliana, I just wanted to say, riffing off of what Hoda was saying in regards to the program, something that is a really good insight is that a lot of the people that join the program, a number of the people that join the program that were in such a small team that they didn't have that sense of community. So even from that perspective of participating in the program, not just learning those core competencies and building their own capabilities, they were connecting with other design leaders, and they were also building their community and their networks. So it was a really good opportunity for them to skill up and be able to apply that practical knowledge, as Hoda spoke about as well, straight into the organization. So there was some really, great value from a career building and knowledge building potential.
Thank you, Dan. Look, I think that from our democratic voting process here, I think the question that they want for us to answer is, what are design leaders' main responsibilities? So salary. What was number 1? Yeah.
Payment, making a payment. Sure
exactly. So what are the main responsibilities? I don't know, from your experience, from what we learned. I think that, of course, the 4 archetypes of design leadership helps a lot, from Peter Merholz, about being a diplomat, where you need to kind of articulate and the value of design. There is also the thing about being an architect, that you need to design the system, the processes, the infrastructure that you're going to be working in, setting the team as well, and also championing, for sure, is a big thing, because you also need to champion ideas and make them happen, and open the gate for more people to make these ideas become reality and become tangible and impactful things that are not just in the realms of idea, but really get implemented. And the fourth one, what is the fourth one that now I am forgetting? Champion, architect, diplomat, and
Gosh.
Coach.
coach. That's a big one. That's a big one for us to forget. We can never forget. That's a big responsibility as well, right? You need to coach your team, help them first become the better versions of themselves as designers, but also as a team, right? How do you coach to create a better outcome? To coach, you create a positive environment as well, and an interesting environment. There was a lot of chat, I remember, between from Natalia Tsilik, how leading a design team is very tricky, because it is a cohort of usually people who are very creative and have sometimes needs that are very different from each other and different from other kinds of people that you're going to be leading. There is a lot of purpose in it. There's a lot of creativity in it. If you're not constantly learning, you just, oh, I don't want to work here anymore. So there is a lot of sensitivities around it. I remember that. But I would love to hear from you, Dan and Hoda. What are the main design leaders' design leader responsibility in your point of view?
Ego management, and that's both your own from the application, like doing what you can do and knowing sometimes that you can do it a lot better, and also managing the egos of your team to get them functioning as a unit. So ego management for me is a big one, and that's also self-reflective as well, being able to take that step back and let other people, because your role is it's the coach, isn't it? It's not about you, it's about other people. So you have to step back, because your success is defined by your team, not by your abilities. It's your abilities to coach, to lead, and also to sell in what everyone's doing and sell in the vision. So just take a step.
I remember, Dan, just jumping in, because you were saying about you coaching and your success about your team. And that's what Andy Poulain called the big leap. Because when you are a designer, you're crafting. And then you are doing you are the machinery of creating goodness, let's say. And then when you jump from a position of being a design, let's say an individual contributor, and then when you start to lead somehow, it could be a small team, 2 people, or 1 more person, or 3 people, or whatever. Then there is this leap, right? It's not about you creating anymore necessarily. And this is a big thing for designers, right? Sometimes you miss it. Sometimes you don't know what you're doing. I remember this was the first session, and this created a big impact, I remember, on everyone, because there is this leap from coming and being like a designer that is focused on the craft, and it could be a digital craft. It doesn't matter what kind of craft it is. But then when you become a manager or when you start leading, that was a big thing. Hoda, is there anything else that you like to add?
I'm actually learning a lot here. I think I define myself as a perpetual student. All right. So I was just thinking now that I've actually reframed a couple of my main responsibilities as design leaders. I would say part of being a design leader is, first of all, identifying yourself as a design leader. Because I think a few years back, I didn't identify myself as a design leader, because this traditional leadership role gets, stamped on a lot of people. So you're stamped as a traditional leader, when in fact, you have the potential to be a design leader. So now I've sort of claimed myself as a design leader, whether they like it or not. So that's one thing. So to scream it, as loud as you can, I'm a design leader. That's one thing. So reframing is important, and to articulate that and to explain why you want to do it this way. And then I think also scaling and the speed at which you do things. So not to try and do everything so quickly, to do small steps and to demonstrate success and to have some success stories. And then people are like, that's interesting, and maybe we can do that, or look what they're doing, because there is this kind of sense of people being curious. And then focusing on individuals' growth and crafting opportunities for others. I think this builds on what Dan was saying about ego management. It's not about you. because it is about you when your team succeeds. If you reframe that in your mind, that if your team is succeeding and growing and crafting new opportunities, and even if they leave, but that is your success. And if you reframe that in your brain, you're going to feel that you're succeeding and that you're growing as well. So that's, I think, part of the design leader's responsibility.
Thank you for that. I love the saying out loud, I am a designer, this transition of the empowering transition of kind of saying, hey, I am a design leader, and understanding that's really beautiful. That's amazing. Dan, you wanted to add something?
I was just going to add, like, a true test of you not being at the controls anymore and taking that step back is when your team have done something that you might not 100% agree with, but you don't change it in the evening and you can have a glass of wine and not think about it. That's the true practical application of letting it go, even though you could potentially do, in your opinion, a more effective job, or you might think, but you still are able to champion the team. Because at the end of the day, if you want to get off the tools and become a leader and be talking at a different level, which is more of a executive strategic level, you have to be comfortable taking that step back, and you have to also be a more effective communicator as well in regards to what expectations are, both up and down the value chain.
That's a great way to talk about it, the value chain. I love it. Thank you, everyone. So I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank these amazing ambassadors, workshop leaders, participants, Hada and Dan Levy, and also for everyone who is here. It was an amazing and fun chat. I don't know if you want to give some final words before I just give like a little bit more of information, Hada and Dan.
How do you mean, Juliana? What
do you want to say final words? Like, I don't know. Something.
Happy Thanksgiving for people tomorrow.
Yeah. That's a good one.
No, honestly, I do think it is worth, reaching out and having a look and investigating this, especially if this is all new to you, because the whole construct of design leadership for some people is completely new, because it's almost like an aha moment. So I do actually think it's just worth investing the time to understand design leadership. And I know, Juliana, you've got lots of books as well in terms of reading. Maybe you might want to share with the cohort here. But it is actually, it's a legitimate thing. And I think the more people that start to reframe design as a capability, not just the craft, is a good thing, because then it will have a seat at the table with the big decisions.
Yeah, and I would also add that there's a lot of passion and care behind, the team that's put this together, and the speakers. There's just so much energy behind this. I've been in a lot of these kinds of experiences, and I've designed a lot of these experiences, and it's just completely different. It inspired me, also changed the way I'm going to be designing things in the future. So, yeah. It's been great. And thank you, Juliana, for inviting me, and Ricardo, of course, to join today and to join the program as a participant and ambassador. It's been great.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Dan and Hada, and everyone for participating. So if you want to join us next year, it will be starting in March 14th. All the global masterclasses are on Mondays. Local workshops are on Wednesdays in your region, depends on where you are. Check our website, or please do contact us to know more about the program. We are going to be offering, for those who participated here, a 15% special code for discount. So do take advantage of that. It lasts for 1 week. So if you want to participate, use this special code. You're also going to be receiving an email. It's going to be valid until December. If you have any questions, contact us. Please contact Luna Luna is not joining us because it is 2 a.m. for her where she is. She's in the US, but she is your person to go to if you have any questions. So Sophie, if you could copy and paste her email for everyone. She is our program advisor. Feel free to contact me as well. You can find me on LinkedIn, Juliana Perosepio, or you can send an email for Luna and say that you want to talk with me, whatever you prefer. And look, there is our ebook. Sophie already shared our ebook on design leadership there on the link on the chat. So download, it's for free if you want to learn more. We have a lot of interviews with the masterclass leaders and with some of our workshop leaders there. And then lastly, I just wanted to invite you to participate and see everything that we're doing at the Ecos School of Design Thinking. We're going to be having other events, other webinars. Feel free to jump in and follow us. And I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank everyone again. For those who celebrate Thanksgiving, as Dan said, happy Thanksgiving. I think we are almost there or there already, I don't know. And look, any questions, please let us know. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Stay tuned, and we're going to be having more fire sessions on design leadership. Join us anytime. Thank you, everyone. Yay, thanks.
Thank you.
See you, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Haga and Dan.